Early Breakfast with Rosie Wright on Times Radio with MHR, the HR, payroll and finance software empowering your team. Find out more at mhrglobal.com.
16 minutes past 5. The Financial Times says Zelensky will not recognise talks with Moscow that exclude Ukraine. We know that US and Russian officials are meeting today, I think to the despair of President Zelensky. The Daily Telegraph says Germany rejects the Prime Minister's Ukraine peace plan. Olaf Scholz left the leaders' meeting early as splits emerge over deploying European troops. The Sun have really started this week delving into other areas of government spending as the government sort of umming and ahhing about what to do over defence spending. They say, do the wokey cokey. Taxpayers are funding a university study of TikTok dance videos in the latest government waste outage. They say more than £8 billion of public cash was set aside for research, but millions have been splurged on woke projects looking at queer animals and pro-trans robots. And finally, the Daily Mail has Kemi Badenoch quoted on the front page of the paper saying it's time to get off our knees and start fighting for Western values. She said that at the ARC conference yesterday. I was there when she gave that speech. Here to go through the papers with me is Andrew Eborn, the barrister, broadcaster and president of Octopus TV. Andrew, good morning.
Good morning, Rosie. Always a delight to join you.
Kemi Badenoch told an audience of about 4,000 attendees at the Excel Centre in London that it was time for war on the poisonous woke ideology and the left's useful idiots. She says the fabric of Western civilisation must be defended. What's she actually talking about?
Well, it is interesting, isn't it? And I think ever since Trump, and it's amazing it's only 4 weeks, it seems like an eternity ago, made his brilliant inauguration speech and got everybody on side, and 300 special orders within 100 days, 100 hours or whatever it was. It's quite extraordinary. What she's saying is the Conservative leader has warned that British culture and identity is being eroded by migrants. And she does the comparison with the Roman Empire, that it could collapse in the same way as the Roman Empire unless the Conservatives renew and immigration is cut. And rather like Trump, this is a sort of tick in the box and say, look, hang about this, there are certain values. If we don't get this under control, basically there's going to be a big issue. So this is fighting talk from her. She knows that this is a vote winner, and this is what she's done.
Is it a vote winner? Is it a lot of sort of hot air and actually not policy? None of it's that practical.
Oh, it's certainly not policy yet, is it? Other than say, this is a problem. I think people realise it's an issue. But you're absolutely right, as always, Rosie. So, OK, what is the solution? Trump's solution was absolute bad. We're going to ship everybody off again, which is quite draconian. But we don't have any details, do we, other than wonderful sort of glorious sound bites?
Yeah, she said yesterday that sort of an avalanche of great political change was coming with the Conservatives and all this sort of Conservative new ideas. But I think they were slightly lacking from her speech yesterday. And the Times, from Aubrey Allegretti, the chief political correspondent, has got a story saying broke and broken inside Tory headquarters where morale and money are low. There was a second round of voluntary redundancies announced last week. There's been obviously a bit of a drop-off in funding from donors. It feels like Kemi Badenoch actually is steering a ship that doesn't have the strongest sentiment right now.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And broken is the headline in spite of her sort of fighting speech. Interesting, they're sort of saying, well, a member of her team says Kemi's been left with the worst possible inheritance. So that's the thing you do, blame your predecessor about the party machine. Having taken over in November, she's basically had to contend with a party low on both morale and money. And obviously, there's people trying to unite the right. And it's interesting, I had Ben Habib on my show very recently, and he's going to try and do a UK equivalent of the Great American PAC, where he's going to try and unite both Reform and the Conservatives to say, well, hang about, we're getting all these votes at the moment. Reform are storming ahead in some sort of polls. Is there a way of trying to unite the people to make sure that they can beat Labour? And I think that's the thing. And then maybe it will be attractive to people apart from the PAC. Elon Musk, who's talked about previously about putting 100 million, maybe, we've never actually got that confirmed, respond into reform and then changed his mind because of Tommy Robinson. Maybe that's what you've got to do. You've got to get yourself in shape, and then people will turn around and say, OK, this is something we can invest in. But at the moment, it is broke, as they say, and looking broken, which needs to be
Well, if we look
addressed.
at some of the numbers, Aubrey writes here that the average running cost is about £20 million a year. This is obviously Conservative headquarters. They'd raised just 3.2 million in the first quarter after the general election. So money clearly has been quite tight. And all of us probably know what it's like when you're working somewhere where there's been a round of voluntary redundancies and morale is absolutely on the floor and people are sort of spending more time looking for their next job rather than working on the one they've currently got, at least sort of emotionally, their heart may be elsewhere. It's an interesting read inside the paper today.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the other thing on that, Rosie, as well, is the success of the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency in America. We should maybe take some inspiration from that as well, because it's not just about raising money, but also about cutting any inefficiencies. And that applies across all industries. And I think we should take a look at that.
Yeah, it's not great for morale, though.
No, I think that's a fair comment.
It was interesting because Kemi Badenoch yesterday said at this conference, when she made the speech, that's the one that's on the front page of the Mail, she said actually she was learning from Donald Trump indirectly. Yes. She said Donald Trump, the first time round, spotted the problems, and now he's in office the second time, he's fixing them. And she sort of suggested that's what the Conservatives do, but they'll only have the chance to try and fix some of the problems if they get re-elected, and when that might happen, we don't know. Question here now over the Chancellor. Andrew, this is the latest in one of many stories of a similar vein. Rachel Reeves wrongly claimed to have work published in one of the world's leading economics journals, raising another question about exaggerations on her CV. Tell us what Chris Smythe's found.
Well, it is extraordinary, isn't it? So the Who's Who entry, it lists an incorrect journal publication. And it says that she was a contributor to the Journal of Political Economy, which is a very sort of a wonderful thing. But in fact, she wasn't. The error has been compared to claiming that somebody studied at University of Oxford instead of the less competitive Oxford Brookes University. So what it was, she was a contributor to the Journal of Political Economy, is what they claim. But she, in fact, published one article, and it was just one, in a far less prestigious publication, the European Journal of Political Economy. But so that is the comparison. They've got no idea, apparently, that allies of Reeves, they've all come out and say, poor old Rachel, everybody's having a pop at her. But there's no record of how the entry had come to be made or who approved the description of her publication record. But this is absolutely going to haunt her forever, isn't it? Saying that I worked for the best part of a decade when it was only like 5 years and a few months or whatever it is. All of these things are going to come out time and time again.
But why, Andrew? Because once you've made a mistake once, that is your chance, I think, to rectify everything. And it's not just her profile on LinkedIn where there have been problems. And so, in essence, effectively, she claimed to have been contributor to a journal that was far more prestigious than the one she actually had done. I think people will feel really tired that, you know, it's a gift to political journalists to just go through Rachel Reeves' supposed qualifications and just do some basic fact-checking to find out that it's wrong.
Oh, and what I love about the Times is that they've done all these screenshots as well. So you see this ever-moving LinkedIn description and who she's worked for and who she hasn't worked for and so on and so forth. Though you're right. I always say that sunlight is the best disinfectant. If there are errors, and people have got errors and some of them are deliberate and some are not deliberate. And I think that was the time when people suddenly turned around. Somebody should have had a quiet word and said, here, Rachel, just check everything because people are going to have a pop at it. And quite right. So journalists are there salivating at all these errors.
Well, because it's just so many, that's the thing. Yeah. There is a wonderful sort of game almost in the papers this morning. If I open up first page of the Times, Kate's portrait project puts family time front and centre. So the Princess of Wales and her 3 children have released portrait sketches of one another. They've said it's part of this sort of idea to encourage families to foster a moment of connection. So the 4 of them have drawn each other, but they've released the pictures and they haven't said who drew who drew who, which is quite hard to say.
Yeah,
and it's quite fun. It's quite fun to try and work out. I mean, 2 of them are very good. One of them very clearly has been drawn by a child, and the other's quite creative.
No, that's the one Kate drew.
Well, we don't know. They're not going to tell us.
It is extraordinary. No, but I absolutely support. I think the wonderful thing, we live in a world where families are sort of sheltered. They all bury themselves in their own devices and don't talk and so on and so forth. So I absolutely support this glorious moment, a moment of connection, as the Princess of Wales wisely says. And I think she's quite right not to say who drew which picture. But basically, Prince George, who's 11, Princess Charlotte, who's 9, and Prince Louis, who's 6, they all took part in this exercise. And it's related to the Princesses Shaping Us framework initiative, which aims to foster a greater understanding of social and emotional skills in a child's life. And I think whatever we can do to sit down as a family to get people, because people tend not to eat together, they tend not to watch television together, they tend not to play games together. So any of those sort of things are key to building that sort of side. And the release of the children's artwork, it comes after Kensington Palace shared a portrait of Kate 43 to mark World Cancer Day. And that was taken by Prince Louis. The photograph of the princess standing with her arms outstretched on a winter walk through the woods at Windsor. So he's obviously a very talented photographer as well. We need to encourage people. If you go into a classroom of children and say who can paint, who's a painter, everybody put their hands up. If you go into a room of adults and say who can paint, nobody has the courage to do that. We need to encourage people to participate. We need to celebrate success, and we absolutely need to build those family values.
You will really enjoy trying to play who painted or who drew who. Andrew, thank you so much. Andrew Eborn, the barrister, broadcaster and president of Octopus TV.
Across the UK, on DAB, online and on your smart speaker. This is Times Radio.